All right, gentlemen, I want to take a look at this rectangles program that we made. This one's a little bit different than what you guys have done. I've been looking, I just kind of skimmed your code really quick, and I like what you guys have done. But what I want to talk about is actually outputting a solid rectangle, and then try to get you guys into outputting a hollow rectangle. All right, so what I have here is I have all the code, everything's just kind of minimized right now. So if I actually pop out to the main, what I have in my main right now, I got my scanner set up. I set my length and my width to 1. You'll see why I have that in a little bit. I got a user continues equals true for my do while loop. I'm going to call the main menu. I'm going to take the choice from the user, and then I'm going to run a switch on that choice. And if they choose option 1, I'm going to let them input the dimension for length and input the dimension for width. If they choose option 2, I'm going to run a solid rectangle with length and width. If they choose option 3, looks like I goofed that up, output hollow rectangle with length and width. In option 9, we're going to quit. I also have an exit menu, and I have an error down there as well. And I even have a customizable error, so I got error number 1 going for that one. Here's why I chose to make my length and width 1, is because if they came in and ran this menu and went right to 2 and 3 without ever running option 1, it will actually generate something, some kind of output for me on the screen. All right, so let's take a look at, we'll run up the main menu, and then we'll take a look at input dimensions here real quick. So main menu, guys, should be a custom match. It's just an output of a menu right there, input dimension, solid rectangle, hollow rectangle, exit, and then choice. All right, input dimensions. So I'm allowing them to pass a string in called dim. And when I click on this right here, you can see I set up a scanner. And then I set my dimension to -1 because I wanted to try to catch them trying to ever input a 0 or a number in the negatives. I don't want that to actually happen. So what I did here is I put a while loop, and I said while your dimension is less than 1, so right off the bat it's already less than 1, it goes into the while loop. Then I'm going to output to you whatever was passed in, so it'll say length or width or whatever I put in there, and then a colon and a space. Then I'm going to read the dimension from you, and if you give me a dimension less than 1, I'm going to run an error with a 2, with choice 2 in it. All right, and then what that'll do is that'll loop back up and keep us in the while loop if they put in a 0 or anything lower, and keep running this over and over and over again until they finally give us a value that is greater than 0, a positive number, and then it'll kick out of the while loop and overturn the dimension. All right, and tell you what, let me run a quick demo of that for you. All right, so right here, if I choose here we go, I'll choose option 5 to show you that I have an error message going for this one. Let me go to full screen here. All right, so if I chose option 5, it threw up an error message, right? So now let's say I come down here and I say input menu, and I say length, and I say 0, it's going to give me an error number. And look how it's still asking for length. If I say -1, it's going to give me an error. Right now, when I put in 33, it'll actually accept it. And when I put in a width, if I try to do -9 on this one, it's going to keep giving me an error until I finally give it a valid value for me there for my length and my width. All right, so you can see that is actually working. And I'll even take you down to the error here. Let's show you in the error. So I have a switch on the value that they pass in. So if it's 1, I'm going to put that message. If it's 2, I'm going to put that message. All right, so it's a customizable error message. All right, now I want to talk about outputting a solid rectangle, right? So I got a length and a width that they've given to me. So they're going to it's going to get passed into me here in length and width. All right, so what I'm going to do now is inside of here, this is a situation where we need to run nested for loops, something we have not really had a chance to talk about. So I'm gonna consider my rectangle right now. Let's say I got maybe 4 stars going across this way and 3 stars going down. So that's like my height and that's my width, or maybe I called this my length and this my width, right? So maybe I should have said height. So if you think about it, my rows are controlled by length, and my columns are controlled by width. So my outer one I want to do for my rows. So I'm going to say int L equals 1, because that's where I'm going to start out with one star. And then I want to do it while L is less than or equal to length, because that's the dimension they gave us. And I'm going to say L plus plus. And then at the end of this, I'm going to go ahead and put in my curly brace. And we're going to say end of outer for loop. Okay. And on the inside now, so this is now going to print out for me. It's going to actually put out the amount of rows that I need, right? So if I put in 4, it's going to give me 1 to 4. All right, so now I'm going to do the width in here. So I'm going to go ahead and say another for loop on the inside. I'm going to say int w equals 1, because that's the minimum size that I need. And I'm going to say w is less than or equal to width. So I'm going to keep looping this guy until I hit the dimension that they gave me. And I'm going to say w plus plus. All right, at the end of this guy, I'm going to put a curly brace. I'm going to say end of inner loop, Lapo loop. And then on the inside, let's just flat out do a sysout, and I'm just going to output a star just to see what actually happens here. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and run this program now. And let's go to full screen on this one. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to go right to output solid rectangle. And notice it gave me a 1 by 1 rectangle. That's why I had that in there. So let's go ahead and change our dimensions. Let's make it 4 by 3. All right. And then when I go ahead and I say solid rectangle now, it does it all in one straight line. But if you look, there should be 12 stars. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it actually worked, but it just didn't give it the fashion I want. So I really want to string out this direction, correct? So I'm going to come in here, instead of doing a print line, we're going to make it a print. So now when I run this, and I'm going to go ahead and say my dimensions are 4 by 3 again, and when I say solid rectangle, it did the same thing, but it went this direction now, right? So if you think about it, the inner for loop with the width statement is giving me those 4 stars, then it's giving me those 4 stars, and then it's giving me those 4 stars. So I now need to get this guy to bump down a line. So with that logic in mind, if you look at this right here, every time the inner for loop runs, I want the 4 stars, but after the inner for loop runs, I need to bump down a line. And how do I do that? I just simply system out, nothing, just a print line. You can put a blank something in there if you want, like a double quotes or something, but that should get the job done. Now when I run this, and I specify my dimensions, and I say 4 by 3, and I run my output rectangle, there it is. It is 4 rows, 1, 2, 3, 4 by 3 columns, 1, 2, 3. And if I were to run this again, and I'm going to go ahead and do option number 1, and let's do 10 by 10. And I run, there it is, it's 10 by 10. If I do my options and I say 3 by 19. All right, and I run it, there it is. Oh, my bad, that was the wrong one. If I run it, there's my 3 by 19. Okay, so there you go. Actually, I think I goofed up on my earlier statement. I was reading it backwards when I was drawing, like talking about the stars, but all right, that's enough on that. So let's come back to this hollow rectangle now. So I'm going to go ahead and let's do my input dimensions. Let's do 4 by 3, and I want to do a hollow rectangle, and I want this thing to have, there it is, my 4 rows, my 3 columns, but I want the center to be emptied out of it. Now, obviously, if I do a 2 by 2 and I run the hollow rectangle, it's really not empty in the middle. But if I ran a 10 by 10 and ran a hollow rectangle, it's going to be empty right there. So let's think about this a little bit. And I'm not going to show you my code for this because this is where you're going to go next, right? I need to get, if you think about it, what is it? It's my first row is stars and my last row is stars. And then this is my first column, and this is my last column. What controls the rows? Is it L or W in my code? It was the outer loop controls the rows, right? So this is all the further I'm going to give you. If my rows or my L's are in this position or this position, I want to print out stars. If my width, right, which is these guys here, my first and last spot, if they're in the first or the last spot, I want to print out the stars. I'm not going to give you the code for that right now. All you need to do, and it's actually a really, really simple fix, is honestly, it's this block of code with pretty much one statement added in. Well, it's a one multi-line statement added in, and you can actually accomplish that. There's multiple ways to do this, but I'm going to let you guys figure this out. So that's going to be actually your next assignment you got to turn in, is that previous code, the rectangle version 2, you're now going to make rectangle version 3 and add a hollow rectangle choice in there, and you're going to output the rectangle and hollow. All right, guys, thanks a lot, and I will talk to you later.